Hi Erica, and Taylor actually. Today we're going to talk about the plot diagram. And the plot diagram is any story that has characters, that has a setting, that's a fictional thing. It's not a true thing. We'll follow a series of events called the plot diagram. So today what we're going to do is we're going to just break it down into the different pieces. The first part is called the exposition, okay? This is when you meet the characters, you find out what the setting or the time and the place of the story is, and you usually find out the conflict or the problem that the main character is dealing with, okay? That's the exposition. The next part is the rising action, okay? And the rising action is the series of events where the conflict gets bigger. So a bunch of different things happen and the problem gets, more and more intense until you get to the climax. Okay, and the climax is when the conflict reaches its most intense point.
So you'll have to come back tomorrow.
Next you have, I should probably make this a little bit. Next you have the falling action. And the falling action is the series of events where things kind of fall into place, get tied up, and it leads to the resolution. The resolution is when the conflict gets solved or accepted. So it's not always a happy ending. Okay, if the story is about, a kid whose favorite pet dies at the end, well, that's not a happy ending, but the character will come to some kind of an acceptance and realize that they always have their memories of their pet or whatever. So, not always a happy ending, but the conflict does get resolved. So you have your exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. If you think about any short story, book, TV show, movie that you've seen, it usually follows this pattern, okay? And the analogy that I like to give kids, it's like blowing a bubble, okay? So, the exposition is when you take the piece of bubble gum out of the wrapper and you pop it in your mouth and you start to chew, okay? And you get the flavor and you're enjoying your gum, and then you decide to blow some bubbles. The rising action would be, you blow in a couple of bubbles and they get consecutively bigger and bigger till you get to that point where you've got this ginormous bubble, and if you inhale, it's going to go plop right over your face. That's kind of like the climax. The resolution of falling action would be you getting all that gum off of your face and throwing it away, okay? That's the falling action and the resolutions. Just a little analogy I like to use. So let's see how this would play out with a really, really familiar story. And what Tibbetts is going to give you is she's going to give you a graphic organizer for you to do this. So as I go through this, I want you to fill out this graphic organizer, okay? So we're going to do the Three Little Pigs, because everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs. So the exposition of the beginning of the story, you meet the pigs. So there's 3 pigs. There's the mother pig, and there's the big bad wolf, otherwise known as BBW. It takes place, once upon a time, because it's a fairy tale. So, once upon a time. And the conflict is that the mother pig, and there's different versions of this story, we're going to go with the one that I know. The mother kicks the 3 little pigs out and says, you're all grown up, it's time for you to make your own way in the world. So the conflict is that they have to find a place to live on their own. So the rising action is, the first little pig builds his house of straw. And then the second pig builds his house of sticks. And then the third pig builds his house out of bricks. And then Big Bad Wolf comes. And he blows down the first house. And then the second. And the climax would be when he's at the third house, okay? And he's on the chimney, and he's huffing and puffing and blowing, and it looks like things are gonna be really bad for the three little pigs. If he gets to them, they're toast, okay? So what the three little pigs do is they build a fire, and they boil some water. And again, this is the version I know. You might know a slightly different one. And they kind of taunt the big bad wolf. And he falls down the chimney and ends up either in the kettle and there's wolf stew for supper, or he gets burnt and he jumps out of the kettle and he runs off into the woods. But at any rate, the big bad wolf goes away. Okay? And that's the resolution. So hopefully as I was doing this, you were able to kind of follow that with your graphic organizer. Now what I would like you to do is on the back, I would like you to think of a story that you know. It can be a fairy tale, or it can be a book, it can be a movie or a TV show, and plot out that plot with the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. Once you're done with this, and you think you've got a handle on it, then you can go ahead and do the plot diagram for The Broken Chain, which is the short story that you just read. Okay, so if you have any questions, email me. And I hope you enjoyed my mini lesson on plot diagrams. I'll see you later.